Hey, Glue Troopers, Max and Max's Models here. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Sunday. I actually got quite a bit done today. Got an early start. Started working on the S2F, the S2F by Comet, and I managed to get everything eventually masked off, primed, painted. Quite the little process, but it was, pretty successful. I got the white transition line between the gray and the white way too high up, so I had to remask it and shoot that over. And some stuff came off the tape, so there was a lot of touch up and everything. The squadron identifier on the tail that I traced out and trimmed, it came out okay, but I'm still going to try and get the decal set, and I'll put it on over that. But overall, it's not a bad little kit. Unfortunately, I did mess up that one window really badly, so I just went ahead and painted it black, but it doesn't really matter because there's no interior. And I also put some epoxy putty in the stand to give it a little weight since it toppled over so easily, try and weigh it down just a little bit. But still got a lot to do on it. I got some cleanup still to do, and I've got to paint the propeller tips and see if I can run down the decals. I could put some placeholders on in the meantime, but it's not really hurting anything just sitting over there. And got to admit, pretty nifty little kit. Pretty happy with it. I also was working on the Jupiter 2. I had to take it out to the Tarbis because since the top and the bottom won't seal up, I realized it was going to take some reworking to get some of the pieces to set down in the interior. That was a lot of cutting and grinding on a mostly finished model. That always goes well. But the real trick was the lights went out because the positive lead to the circuit board had frayed. And when I got in there, I realized the negative was pretty far gone too, just probably from all the moving everything around, constantly changing batteries and stuff. So I got some heavier gauge wire, and it was an effort because I had to do it in situ down in the guts of the electronics, but I managed to solder in new leads, and now everything's working again. I'm also switching over to AA batteries underneath the bottom of the base that I'm making for it, and I went over to Hobby Lobby the other day with my wife. They had 40% off on unfinished wood projects, so I grabbed a bunch of these to use as base plates. And one of them came with a rim around it that created a cavity on the bottom, which is a perfect place for the battery. So I made what looked like a Lost in Space kind of alien planet base and drilled a hole out to run the wires through. I'm only running the power wires down to the batteries. It would be too dangerous to try and move the off and on switches. That could go south in a hurry. But this will allow me to change batteries without having to open up the ship. So I'm going to seal the ship up here before too long. And while I was doing that, I also decided, okay, I've got to get those wires down there. How am I going to disguise them? So I grabbed this little radar unit, and I am going to run the power wires through a painted straw that's going to look like a power cable going out to this unit, and that of course will cover up the hole going underneath. So that's how I'm going to do that. It ought to be a spiffy when I'm done, and I got to give that overnight to harden. I basically just smeared the crap out of it with Elmer's glue very generously, and got the railroad stuff, and I was like, okay, you know what? Let's sand, and let's put some yellow stuff in there. This is an alien planet. Have some fun with it. So I didn't really work on the Stagecoach today. Just busy with other things. Really, all I got to do now is just paint the characters and a few odds and ends that are going to go with it. While I was at Hobby Lobby, I found those little benches that they fit on, and also grabbed myself a bucket. So it'll look like they're, I'll have them discussing something and telling tall tales while they get ready to repair the Stagecoach. I gotta make the arrows to stick out of it. So anyway, that'll be pretty cool when I'm done. There's one other thing. I mentioned I put the putty in the base of the stoof so it would be a little heavier. And what made me decide to do that was my little Gemini astronaut had fallen and hit the floor, and his cable that connecting the ship had broken. I'm like, oh man, there's no way that a glue bond is going to hold on a piece of plastic like that to be able to suspend him. So I replaced it with wire, and I had to find the base of the wire, and I used some putty to make sure the epoxy to make sure that base held. So now I've got him back in display. Actually, it looks better than it did before. All right, guys, that really is what I got done today. I don't mind telling you, the stoof was a little tricky to paint just because I might have been better off pre-painting some stuff, because obviously you're trying to get in there and get in some of these weird angles and stuff to get the tape in place and everything, and we all know how that goes. I rattle canned it because it was just basically a three-tone paint scheme, the black, the gray, and the white. And if I had used an airbrush, it probably would have gone a little bit easier. And but the overspray is always an issue with a rattle can. You think you got everything sealed up, you pull off 4 pounds of tape, and sure enough, it found the spot you missed. But hey, that's model building, right? Well, that pretty much wraps up today's activities. You guys take care of yourselves, and as always, model on.